In the middle of the forest, located not so far away from my home, lies this place, which I fondly call the Ant Paradaisica, as it is teeming with not one but multiple species of ants living in close proximity to one another. Yet the undisputed ruler of these lands are these bad and nasty Godzilla ants. However, during many of my visits to this place in recent times, I have been finding many of the Godzilla ants in their dying state. In most of the cases, I have noticed that the head of the ants are gruesomely decapitated from their bodies. At first I thought that this may be work of some cruel person who had done this just for fun. Or maybe it was work of some large beetle or insect which had beheaded the ants when they were attacked by the super aggressive ants. Just a week ago, I had found this headless body of a Godzilla ant, which was being attacked by these small Headless ants, who were almost 20 times smaller than the Godzilla ants. The Headless ant had to toil a lot in spite of being in large numbers to even carry away the big head of the Godzilla ant to their nest. But today, when I saw this headless body of the Godzilla ant hanging from the bamboo scale, I felt that this was not a few stray incident that I was witnessing, but the beheading of these ants was rampant and happening often. Now, as far as I know, such rampant decapitation of ants can be the work of only one type of insect, the phorid flies, mainly of the genus Pseudactyon. But I have never noticed any phorid flies around here. So I felt the only way to find out the true cause behind the decapitation of these ants was to find a decapitated head and look inside it. When I searched the ground below, I found this, and finally this. 3 heads, but this one looked like it was freshly decapitated. So I decided to crack open this one, but I found that it was not as fresh as I had expected it to be, for one of the jaws just fell off as I lifted the head from the ground. When I cracked open this head, this is what I found: 2 white-collared larvae of some insect, and they were alive and moving. I was excited, for I felt I was about to solve the mystery behind the beheading of these ants. All that I needed to do was to take these samples home and study them. Or maybe I could keep them till they mature into full adult. Putting my camera on time lapse, I started to collect my gears. But when I returned back, to my horror, the samples were gone. Hurriedly, I took my camera and played the time lapse. Oh my god, it was a Headless ant that had stolen my samples. Crossing the tiny little devil, I checked in the nearby Headless nest in hope of finding my samples. But I could not see any trace of them. My samples were lost. Frustrated at myself for leaving the samples alone, I decided to search the place in hope of finding any other new samples. I searched and searched, and this is what I found. Not 1 or 2, but dozens of decapitated heads, and all of them belonging to Godzilla ants, though there are several other species of ants living in this place. Among the decapitated heads, one was quite unique. It had some kind of plant growing out of it. Was this plant or whatever it may be that was causing the beheading of these ants? Just then, I saw this tiny little creature coming out through the crack in one of the ant head. From its body structure, it looked like a tiny wasp. Was this the mature stage of the larva that I had seen earlier? The only way to know this was to find such larva again. As I was searching for some fresh samples, I came across this ant, which was looking seriously ill. A miner worker was near it, and it looked like the miner worker was tending to this sick ant. Was the head of this ant going to fall off? Thinking that this ant could be of great importance to me, I was just about to remove it down from its nest when suddenly the head of the ant just fell off. I decided to collect both the head and the body of this ant in order to study them. These were the two heads that I had found that looked fresh. As I was examining one of the head, I saw a diacama ant moving towards the other sample. It found the ant head, but did not show much interest in it and just left. But it was back soon, and on finding the headless ant body, this time it immediately began to attack the headless body of the Godzilla ant. Now generally this ant will never dare to stand before a Godzilla ant. However, here it immediately started to attack the headless Godzilla ant, even though it is on the back side of the Godzilla ant and apparently does not know about the missing head of the Godzilla ant. It means the diacama ant has smelled some odor which is telling it that the Godzilla ant will not be able to harm it. But even without a head, the Godzilla ant is quite strong and is resisting being pulled away. The diacama ant is having a tough time in dealing with the headless Godzilla ant. But finally the diacama ant is able to sting the headless Godzilla ant. The diacama ant begins to run away with the paralyzed ant body. But this time, I was not ready to part away with any of my samples. Back home, I placed the decapitated heads of the Godzilla ants in a container. There were so many of them, and they looked creepy. The small wasp-like creature was still here, and there were more than one of them. So what are these little insects? Do any one of you know anything about them? If yes, then do tell us about it in the comment box below. Now it is almost certain that these insects were emerging out from the decapitated heads of the ants. But were they the real culprit behind the decapitation of the Godzilla ants? In search of the answers to my questions, I took out the fresh-looking decapitated ant heads that I had collected. But on close examination, I found that all of the three heads had holes in them. I doubted that these heads may be hollow inside. So I decided to crack them open. It turned out that I was right, for all of the three heads were hollow and empty. Now I have only this head left with me. I have examined it and have found no holes in it. So I am going to keep this with the hope that something important will emerge out of this head. But unlike other heads, the antennae in this one is still intact. So I am not sure whether this will give us the answers that we are seeking. Still, I am keeping my fingers crossed and also hoping that one among the other ant heads also has a larvae in it, which will soon mature and emerge out. Also got to find out more about this tiny wasp-like creature. So hoping that I will soon be able to solve this mystery. Till then, take good care of yourselves. We'll update you on this soon.